week 2 of this series, Go Work It. And just to get us up to speed on what we covered last week, it was really basic, actually. We talked about our human propensity to divide our lives into different slices, not just aspects of our lives. We actually refer to these as separate lives. So we got our social life and our work life and our spiritual life, and just how neurotic that is. Like, of course we're going to be stressed. And the crazy part about it is there's a design of the enemy in this, because if we see these as separate lives, then any traction God gets in one of those slices, it's going to find very difficult to kind of ripple into the other areas of our life. And so I talked about the fact that Jesus, I don't know if you know this, but Jesus doesn't recognize your social life. Jesus doesn't recognize your work life and your spiritual life. He just recognizes your life. You just got a life. And the only pie chart that really matters to Jesus is this: the amount or the parts of your life you've given me and the parts of your life you have not yet given me. That's literally how Jesus looks at it. And so we're going to talk today about how do we, if we've been compartmentalizing this work part of our life, and by the way, if you're a student, I'll just remind you, that's your job, okay? Your job is school right now, and that's preparing you for your job. So just whenever I say work or marketplace or job, if you're a student, think school, okay? And if you got a part-time job, great, then you can think of that as well. But how do you take that part of your life and just let Jesus integrate it into the rest of your life? How do you let God take over your work life? Last week I challenged us to do that. Well, this week we're gonna talk about it. So we're gonna do a $150 helicopter tour over the life of Joseph this Sunday. And this is Joseph in the Old Testament, not Mary and Joseph. So how many of you have heard of Abraham? Raise of hands. Abraham, patron saint of Judaism. Other big heavy hitter would be Moses. Abraham had a son named Isaac. Isaac had a son named Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, 13, one later. But the 12th son was a guy named Joseph, who was his father's favorite. This is really interesting, because usually especially in Jewish culture, it was like the firstborn son was like the golden star, the son. So this is the guy that got the lion's share of the inheritance. This is the one on whom the hopes of the family were set. And Joseph, being number 12, should not have been the favorite, but he was. So his dad set him up for success by buying him a Technicolor dream coat that I'm pretty sure it had flashing lights when he got his groove on. And so every it's like, what? And every time Joseph walked in the room, here comes the flashing lights, and this coat would scream to his brothers, I am Dad's favorite. I am Dad's favorite. If you hadn't noticed, and they're like, we get it. We love him too. So set him up for success. By the way, this is the family that needs to learn a lesson. This is the family that needs to learn you can think it, but you don't need to say it. He can be your favorite. Just don't tell anybody. But Jacob tells the other brothers, he's my favorite. Yeah, us too. Okay, whatever. So here's how this story kind of plays out with Joseph. And we're gonna learn from Joseph's work experience throughout this message today. So Joseph is not his brother's favorite, and it gets worse, because one day Joseph starts to realize that God maybe has a plan for his life. And his other brothers, they're not as dialed into God, but here's how this works, okay? Now, you're not going to see the immediate connection to your work. By the end, you're going to go, shut up, and I'll be done, and then you can go home. So, right? Okay, so Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, again, think it, don't say it. When he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. So here's the dream. He said to them, it's the weirdest thing. Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves just kind of gathered around mine and bowed down to it. Wonder what that means. What do you think, Judah? Right? She's like, I think it means I'm going to kill you. Right? So not again. You can think it, but don't say it. But here's what I want to point out right in the beginning. Your life, and in fact, the key to unifying all the different pieces of your life is to understand that every single person on planet Earth, including you, even if you don't know how to articulate it, every single person has a dream. And it's a God-given dream. And the reason I know every single person has a dream is because God has a dream for every single person. And it's called his dream is called the kingdom of God, and it includes everyone and everything. Nothing is excluded from that dream. So he downloads different bits of that, different responsibilities, different parts of that calling to every single human heart in existence. And if we would just tune in, we could all play our part. So I know everybody has a dream. Joseph tunes into that. He actually has a literal dream where he's getting a sense for what's going on in his life. Notice, though, he doesn't say it's from God. He doesn't even know it's from God yet. All he knows is something's stirring up, and he's like, I think I'm maybe called to do something. I think it's maybe better than your dream, right? So he's not very good at this thing, and none of us are very good at handling our dreams. Now, here's what's going on. Here's why the brothers hate him. Joseph doesn't realize he's not the only one with the dream. So what's happening is he's going, hey guys, I got a dream. And Judah's going, well, that kind of bumps into my dream. Like, I'm supposed to be the firstborn, and I'm supposed to inherit all this stuff. And the other brothers are like, yeah, what about my dream? And they're feeling threatened by Joseph's dream. So the first thing you need to realize as you navigate your workplace is, A, God's dream for you is bigger, far bigger than the life you're living right now. But the same is true for everyone around you. They just don't know it, and you don't know it. So Joseph maybe looks like he's got more of a handle on his dream than his brothers, but actually, he's already messing it up, right? Like he doesn't know how to talk about it. He doesn't know how to share it with anybody else. And he's bumping into other people's dreams, not realizing that maybe God's plan, there's a way of working this all out together, right? So here's what happens. So next, we're going to kind of fast forward through these chapters of his life. So one day, his brothers, they're out in the field. It's like in the back 40. They're out smoking weed because it's like legal now. So they're out there. They're smoking it up. I know they're smoking something because of what happens next. I'm just saying. So these guys are like, hey, they're like talking about their younger brother, and they're seeing so clearly. And so here comes Joseph. Now you're already tripping because of the weed, and here comes Joseph with the Technicolor dream coat, and they're like, wow. So he comes over the hill, and they're like, oh, I hate that guy. In fact, they say, here comes that dreamer. Here comes that dreamer. And so Joseph comes over the hill, and they're not thinking straight, and so they grab him, and they strip off this coat because they're tired of looking at this stupid jacket. They tear it off, and they throw Joseph in a pit, into a cistern, an empty cistern, not a sister, cistern. They didn't have sisters. So they throw him into the cistern. Now, the moment he goes to the bottom, they're like, oh. You know what's just happened? Now what do? Like now, if they let him back up, he's going to tell mom. he's going to tell dad. We can't. I'm sorry, you're fine, don't tell mom. Right? Like literally, he's down there, they're like, now what do we do? Well, we should have thought of that, but we didn't. So now they're thinking, oh, let's have lunch. Literally, this is their plan. They're like, let's eat on it. And so, which apparently happens when you're high. So anyways, I'm just, I'm kidding, right? Okay, well, kinda. So they sat down to eat their meal, and they looked up, and they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites. Who are the Ishmaelites? Doesn't matter. You can find that a different time. Coming from Gilead on their way to Egypt. So they're just passing through. And Judah, he's kind of like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Like, we can't let him up out of the pit. right? So he said to his brothers, this is one of the slimiest brother speeches in all of human literature. Look at this. What will we gain if we kill our brother to cover up his blood? We were thinking about killing him? My brother, just because he's a dreamer, I don't like his jacket. Let's kill him. That's brotherly love for you. Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. And you can picture, if this isn't a movie, this is where he stands up and he pulls out his chest and he says, after all, he is our brother. Our own flesh and blood. And his brothers, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's not kill him. Let's sell him as a slave. That's way better. It's way better. Bye-bye, brother. So they sell him into slavery. Now, this seems like a bit of a setback for Joseph in his dream of God using him to do great things in the world. He had a place in the family business, not so much anymore. Now he's a slave on his way to Egypt. When he gets to Egypt, there's a rich, like a lord kind of guy named Potiphar who buys Joseph, right? Buys him from the caravan as his slave, and then he puts Joseph to work. The crazy thing about Joseph, though, is because God's hand on his life, no matter what he touches, turns to gold. It's like he's that annoying guy. He's like so even in Potiphar's house, every single month, he's employee of the month. It's like everywhere he goes, people are like, I hate that guy. He's so good at everything. His brothers and now everybody else. So he's doing so well that he catches the attention of Potiphar's wife, who is looking, we have some kids here, looking for attention that maybe Potiphar isn't giving her, so to speak. And so she decides to befriend Joseph, and she comes on to him. She seduces him. She's trying to seduce him, and day after day she's saying, come to bed with me. Okay, I just said it. There we go. Conversations later. You're welcome. But, children, day after day, Joseph says, no. How could I do that? God's been, faithful to me. I got to be faithful to God. And your husband, he's entrusted me with all this stuff. I would not betray his trust. And so one day, she literally throws herself at him, and he wrestles his way out of her grip, leaving. He's this nasty habit of losing jackets. So she grabs onto his jacket. He wrestles his way out, runs for his life while she's holding on to this thing. Now she's in the same pickle as the brothers were, because now he's going to run off and tell someone, right? So then she says, well, I'll beat him to it. So she comes to Potiphar and she goes, look at this slave, this Hebrew slave. He tried to seduce me, tried to rape me. So you may want to deal with that. And Potiphar, he's got to listen to his wife, and so he throws Joseph into prison, right? So here's how that one goes. Master heard the story. His wife told him, saying, this is how your slave treated me. He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, look at this guy. Joseph is there in the prison, the Lord is with him, even there. And he showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So, hey, you've got a dream. I don't know what your dream is. Some of our dreams actually are kind of twisted versions of the dream God gave us. So sometimes we're running with something that seems like it's the right dream, but it's not the right dream. Joseph's actually running with the right dream. God told him, this is what I want to do in your life, and he doesn't know how to make it happen. And every step he takes seems to be a setback. It seems like he's getting further and further away from his dream. Not only was he 12th in line in the family business, then he got sold into slavery. Then as a slave, he's now a slave in jail. I don't know where you feel like you're at with your dream and the progress, the dreams you had. Maybe it was the big house on the hill. I don't know if that's God's dream for you. Maybe it's just to have a business of your own that's self-sufficient. Maybe it's to plant a church that's self-sufficient. Maybe it's to have a family and have kids. And I don't know what your dream is, to get the promotion. Maybe it's short-term. I don't know where you feel like you're at. Maybe a happy marriage. I don't know where you're at. But very often, when we get to this point where we have setback after setback after setback, we start to say, I don't even know if that was God. I don't even know if my dream's ever going to happen. And Joseph is there. But what I want you to see is that if you're trying to grab hold of God's dream for you instead of just maybe a twisted version of that dream, God is using your greatest setbacks to set up your greatest opportunities. This is a fact, and this is good news, and you can celebrate that. It's okay to go, woo, because you start, this is what faith does. Faith cheers for the breakthrough before it arrives. That's what faith does. It says, God, I trust you. I'm in the middle of a setback after setback after setback, but I know your hand is on me, and this is going to work out because you gave me this dream. I'm holding on to this. You're always faithful. You keep your promises, and Joseph is right in that spot. It's right in that spot. So what about you and your dream and your setbacks? Well, what do I mean by setbacks setting up your greatest opportunities? While he's in prison, Joseph is doing it again. He's like employee of the month in prison, right? One day, he gets roommates. Two guys that really ticked off the Pharaoh, the king, the cupbearer, and the baker. These two guys, they're doing really important jobs for the king, and they're thrown in the can. So here's Joseph. He's in the pen. He's doing his time. He gets roommates, and now he knows what it's like to work somewhere where other people don't want to be in the job, right? Because every day these guys are going, I deserve better than this. You know, hey, I don't know if you know this, but I was a cupbearer for the king, right? Like they're doing this whole thing like, soon as I can, I am out of here, right? Have you ever worked in that kind of environment? The employees are like, I'm just doing this for now. Don't think this is my actual profession. Like, again, my dream is bigger than this, right? This is a setback, yes. But for a season, this is where I am, but I'm out of here as soon as I can, right? So here's how this story kind of continues. The cupbearer and the baker had a dream the same night. Not the same dream, the same night. They each had a dream. And when Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected, right? They're sad. So he asked them, why do you look so sad today? Now, just pause. Joseph is called by God. There's some kind of thing with grain, something to do with authority, people bowing down to him, and he's in prison. Can't go lower than this other than dying in prison. And he has the kind of mindset, the kind of heart, the kind of vision that when someone in prison who deserves to be there, and he doesn't even deserve to be there, is having a bad day, he asks them how they're doing. Joseph has a key to seeing dreams fulfilled that many of us don't possess. We're going to get to that in a minute. Why do you look so sad today? Well, we both had dreams, they answered, but there's no one to interpret them. And then Joseph said to them, well, don't interpretations belong to God? Hit me, right? Tell me your dreams. Now remember, no one was there to interpret Joseph's dream either. He doesn't know what his dream means. He just knows, he's getting a sense now that it's probably from God. These guys don't even have that. They're like, I don't know what it means. Have you ever gone to work or school or you bump into some friends, your friend's like, hey, last night you were in my dream. Have you ever had that? Come on. You ever had that? If you're not in anyone's dreams, that's bad. Okay, so I'm just saying. After there'll be a seminar about how to get into someone else's dreams. But put that aside. So if you ever, and they're like, yeah, you were in my dream. You were riding this big platypus thing, hitting me with this pool noodle and eating lasagna. And then I shot you, I think. And then It seems so real. What does it mean? Like, there are different kinds of dreams, right? But here's the thing. This is good. This is a good one. I'm coming around the mountain. Has it ever occurred to you? Because every human being on earth has a dream. Every human being on earth doesn't know how to interpret their dream. They don't know how to make sense of it. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know. Everyone you meet is literally walking around going, "Are you in my dream? Are you supposed to help me with my dream? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of faking it here. I'm kind of hoping you have, like, if you could help me with my dream, that'd be awesome." And here's Joseph in prison with the presence of mind to realize these guys are at the end of their rope. And they're going, "I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to interpret my life. I don't know what's going on. Can you help me with my dream?" There's no one. And he says, "Well, look, I'm not the expert here, but God is. And he's been kind of helping me with my dream. I know it doesn't look like it, but he's helping me with my dream. Just tell me your dream, and maybe we can do something with that." So they tell him their dreams, and God gives them the interpretation. And lo and behold, like short time after, they both get out of prison. Now, the baker loses his head, so that's a bummer. It's really hard to come back from that. But the cupbearer is restored to his position and immediately forgets that Joseph has helped him. So years go by, I think it's 2 years or something like this, and the Pharaoh himself has a dream, and the cupbearer works for the Pharaoh. So then the cupbearer is listening to the Pharaoh going, "Does someone know how to help me with this? I don't know what to do with my dream." Even the Pharaoh has a dream. From cupbearers to bakers to Pharaoh, everybody's got dreams. Why? Because God's got a dream called the kingdom of God. He's downloading it to every single human heart, but we don't know what to do with it. So here's the Pharaoh. He's wrestling with this dream now, and the cupbearer's like, oh, there's a guy. I know a guy. And he's I'm supposed to tell him about you, but I'll tell you about him. But he's in prison, and I think he can help you. So Pharaoh's like, "Go get him." So they pull Joseph out. Pharaoh shares his dream. Joseph and helps him interpret the dream. Now, here's how it plays out. This is where Joseph starts to get goosebumps. This is where he's like, "No freaking way," because the Pharaoh says, "So here's the dream." Right? And he tells the dream, and the interpretation is this. For 7 years in Egypt, there's going to be abundance. You're going to have an overflow of grain. Wait for it. Grain. An overflow of grain. So much you're not going to know what to do with it. But following that 7 years, there's going to be 7 years of famine so extreme, it has the power to wipe out this whole known world, this entire basin. So he's like, "I'm not Pharaoh or nothing, but here's what I would do if I were you, knowing this. I would take the first 7 years and sock away grain like it's going out of style so that you've got it over here in the famine. So you know what to do with this," right? So he's sharing, again, now he's helping Pharaoh with his dream. Now, the plan seemed good to Pharaoh and his officials, and then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Well, since God clearly has made all this known to you, there's no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." And this is where Joseph is going, "Shut up. Grain?" And bowing down. It's starting to happen. It's starting to happen. It's starting to happen. Now, again, I want to remind you, your world is full of people. Your workplace, your class, your part-time job, your sports teams, your social circles, your neighbors across the fence. The world is full of people who do not understand what God has deposited in their hearts, and they're looking for someone to help them understand their dreams. And here's what Joseph knew that many of us don't get, and this is the first thing I'm going to give you today about no matter what workplace you find yourself in, even if it's a mom's group because you're a stay-at-home mom and you meet there and maybe that's your work, maybe that's your vocation. God's given you that zone. You understand that in God's kingdom, you fulfill God's dreams for you by helping other people fulfill God's dreams for them. Do you see it? Joseph would not have fulfilled his destiny if he had been so focused on his own dream that he didn't have the time to help other people with their dreams. In fact, God's dream for Joseph was to help people fulfill their dreams, to help them understand their place in God's bigger story. And as he did that, God promoted him. So your life, like I said this in the beginning, is bigger than the life, your destiny is bigger than the life that you're currently living. Now, bigger to God may not mean bigger numbers. It may not mean like more exposure or a bigger platform, but there's more to you than you're living today. And the key isn't focusing on yourself, but by focusing on others. Yeah, that's good news, right? So here's the deal. Here's how this keeps going. When the famine had spread over the whole country, so now we're into the second set, right, of years, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians. For the famine was severe throughout Egypt, and all the world came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe everywhere. Now, this is going to be a bit of a paradigm shift for many of you. If you're like me, and you're like most people in this room, you're viewing your current job as like a necessary evil. Like, it's not really what I would choose to do, but I kind of do it so that I can do the things that matter with the other part of my life. So my work life, I'd love to keep it, that slice separate, because then I can view the rest of my life as kind of my life, you know? Has it ever occurred to you that because God's kingdom involves everything and everyone, everywhere, that your workplace has a role in God's kingdom? And He's put you there to help guide it into its destiny. I don't care where you work. This still applies. If you are a prostitute in a brothel, God has a plan for that place to turn it upside down. There is no place you can work that God is not interested in, and every single business, if it were listening to God and it were directed by God, would have a place to fulfill in that larger story. And sometimes He uses them even when they're not listening. I just need to point out that Joseph is working for a pagan king who worships Ra and Isis and Osiris, which are very real demonic entities. This entire, government, religion is wrapped around a false teaching. And here's Joseph finding himself in the middle of all of this. And God says, don't you dare move. I have you here for a purpose. Well, maybe I shouldn't be here because I'm a Christian. Maybe you should be here because you're a Christian. Because maybe God's kingdom involves everyone and everything everywhere, and this is part of the story. What would it be like? And you're like, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, me either. I don't think Joseph knew, but he lived like this before God, and he said, show me what this means. So, we could close the book, go, great, thanks, Brad, you've given me some marching orders for my business, for my workplace, for my school, for my class, but we've still got it kind of the separate slice, don't we? Got this separate slice. That's what to do with my work, but how do we bridge the gap? See, Joseph was feeling it too. He's going, I'm doing it, I'm living the dream. God's dream for me is being fulfilled. I'm so excited for this. I feel alive. I'm energized every day going to work, making a difference. I'm saving the world. And then one day, his brothers show up in the soup line for grain. And Have you ever felt like the people that hurt you come around and now they need you? The people that you helped get promoted or got promoted ahead of you, if you think about that's what happened to the baker, and he got demoted, but he's just far less, he's shorter than he was. Yeah, so, but have you ever felt like, now now you're interested in what I have to offer. Now that I'm in the position of authority, now that I've got the money that you need, and hey, if you're a Christian businessman, you have felt this from the church. Because the message you've received your entire life was you keep that business stuff out of here, except at the end of December when we're trying to meet budget. Thank you very much. Right? Now suddenly you're interested in my business. So this is what Joseph is experiencing. There's I think 3 or 4 chapters where now he's even trying to figure out, do I even want these worlds to collide? He pretends not to know his brothers. He's wrestling with this. So finally he realizes the final piece of the puzzle, and that is that God has a plan to use him to stand between 2 worlds, and he is part of what brings them together. So he acknowledges finally one day he can't even stand it. Puts his brothers through all kinds of tests to see if they've changed, whether they've turned over a new leaf, right? So finally he was like, guys, it's me. Look, I'll take the beard off. Hey, it's like Clark Kent. Oh, it's Joseph. I didn't see that. So I don't know how they didn't see it. Maybe it was the eye shadow. Weird. Walks like an Egyptian. I don't know. Talks like an Egyptian. But finally, they unveil it, and he's like, dudes, this is so awesome. They're like, now they're remembering the pit, and they're remembering selling him into slavery. And this is Joseph's line. He says, for 2 years now, guys, there's been a famine in the land. For the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. So they're 2 years into the 7-year famine. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. And this is a foreshadowing of what Jesus experienced. So we crucified him. We killed him. We're the ones who shed his blood. He's like, yeah, I know it looks like that. And yes, you're culpable, but actually God sent me to preserve you through a great deliverance. This is what Jesus is all about. So you're going, that sounds awkward, standing between 2 worlds. Jesus says, welcome to my world. But this is the call. He's calling us to understand. He is positioning us. He's positioning you to serve both his church and his world. Your business matters. It's not that you're doing that so that you can do other things that matter. It matters. It's part of the story. But don't forget that somehow God has this messy way of bringing the 2 things together so that both his church and his world can thrive, because God so loved the world. So the call today is super simple. Just this. Are you in or what? You don't have to understand. Joseph didn't understand what this all meant in the beginning. It's like, I think I got a dream. I don't know how this works together. How does this work with the family, with the business, with the... Doesn't matter. Jesus is saying, I got this. If you walk with me, I will unfold it. Are you in or what? So, where you're sitting right now, you have a choice to make. You don't have to understand. We've been talking in our activation group about how the peace of God passes understanding. That means that you're here, your understanding's here, it hasn't caught up to you yet. Peace comes faster. You can have peace about that moment before your understanding has a chance to catch up. You don't have to get it, you just have to agree. So where you are sitting right now, I'm asking you, if you are in, stand up and tell Jesus you're in. That's it. Amen.